Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. It is 1:01 p.m. on Monday, April 6th. We embark on another week of Live Impact News with you right now as we speak. We have entered into an afternoon where there's a bit of a cool outside. A chill has taken over Hampton Roads. Now, that chill is all relative, and it's relative to last week when it was 80 degrees day after day after day. This week, it's settled into more of a normal March, April temperature-like feel here in the area, but it will get warm again before long. Eventually, we hope to have a meteorologist in here to break down all of that for you. When it comes to other headlines, well, first of all, happy Easter Monday to all of those who celebrate, and especially happy Easter Monday to those of you who have the day off. We are incredibly envious, but also very happy for you. That sounds delightful. Please enjoy it. If you've chosen, which obviously if you're hearing this, you have, to spend that day off with us on Live Impact News, well, we greatly, greatly appreciate it, and we will try to live up to that level of dedication. Now, right now we have two things going on that are simultaneous to each other and involve the same individual. That is President Donald Trump. He is expected to go ahead and speak at that podium for a White House press conference conducted by him. It doesn't appear as though this will be Caroline Leavitt. This will be the president himself conducting this press conference. It was expected to start at 1 o'clock. He's not at that podium. Why? Well, as you can see, he is still outside at the White House Easter egg roll. This is a tradition at the White House. This is the 148th version of this celebration on Easter Monday. Families, parents, administration members gather outside of the White House on the lawn to celebrate the Easter holiday with an egg roll. Now, President Trump he looks like he's talking to press here, actually. He's been in and out of speaking to press during the Easter egg roll. As you can see, there are plenty of news people there. You see the camera or the photographers behind him as well, in addition to whoever he's speaking directly to. So we expect, we're not going to go live out to President Trump because we expect a full and thorough comment from him to come at that podium. So he's going to finish up at the Easter egg roll. As soon as he goes to the podium, we too will go live to the White House out at the podium. Now, something I want to do very briefly here is I want to give an update on the war in Iran, a Monday update as the war in Iran stretches into its 6th week. And obviously the specter of that war sort of looming over everything that we see in Washington, D.C. today. Easter celebrations are fantastic. It's awesome for the families who get to be involved in something that is occurring at the White House, but it all happening after another tumultuous weekend in the Middle East, another deadly weekend in the Middle East, and into a deadly morning here on Monday. Let's do a very brief sort of bullet point style look at where things stand. Now, on Monday, Iran rejected a 45-day ceasefire proposal. That ceasefire proposal was sent to both the United States and Iran by sort of semi-neutral mediators, Pakistan and Egypt, and I think another nation as well that I actually do not have here directly in front of me, but those neutral mediators that have been attempting to broker negotiation between the two countries, they sent each of the two countries a 45-day ceasefire proposal. That proposal rejected this morning by Iran, who said that they want a permanent end to the war. This information coming from Iran's state-run news agency. The response was conveyed through Pakistan, and the quote is, "We only accept an end of the war with guarantees that we won't be attacked again." That statement being given through diplomats to the Associated Press. Now, that response comes as U.S. President Donald Trump's deadline, Tuesday night Washington time, for Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz quickly approaches. Now, these deadlines, this is not the first time we've seen this. Over the last couple of weeks, President Trump has given multiple deadlines to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, threatening violent action and attacks if that does not happen. He has pushed that deadline back at various times or set new deadlines altogether. The Strait of Hormuz, of course, that critical water passageway currently being controlled by Iran, through which 20% of the world's oil passes through. A passageway, the closing of which has in part led to this sort of energy issue that we see around the country, where oil prices have gone way up. Subsequently, we have felt the impacts of that here in the United States with the increase of gas prices that so many have been experiencing, up over $4 in many places. I believe over $4 on average over in California, much higher in Florida, higher. So that continues to be an issue, and President Trump pushing for the reopening of that strait. That deadline is approaching. Now, we have a report from the Israeli defense minister who said that on Monday, Israel attacked the South Pars petrochemical plant in Iran. This announcement comes as major attacks in sort of on civilian infrastructure have been threatened. Desalination plants have been threatened. Bridges have been both attacked and subsequently threatened even further by President Trump as potential targets if negotiations do not lead to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and or a solution to the war in Iran. The head of intelligence for Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard has been killed, according to Iranian state media. Israel has claimed it was responsible for the killing today. Israel's military said it also killed the leader of the Iranian paramilitary Revolutionary Guard's undercover unit. So, updates from Israel of what appear to be sort of major figures in Iran's defense killed by Israel and reported by Israel. The head of intelligence, again, of Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard killed. And then, of course, Israel and the United States carrying out a wave of attacks in Iran today, killing more than 25 people. Iran responded with missile fire on Israel and its Gulf neighbors. That is something we've repeatedly seen as well. As the United States and Israel continue to attack Iran, Iran then attacks its own neighbors in the Gulf. So, plenty more updates to come on that war, and you can certainly just about expect that President Trump will be speaking about that war for the majority of his press conference. And here he comes to the podium now. I'm going to go ahead. Yep, Nia way ahead of me here. President Trump stepping to the podium straight off of the Easter egg roll. Let's go live out to the White House now. It looks like he's flanked by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth as well. Let's listen in to the president.
Honor to be with you, and happy Easter. We had a great Easter. This is one of our better Easters, I think, in a lot of different ways. I can say militarily, it's been one of the best. So, good afternoon. We have quite a bit to discuss. We'll go into pretty good detail. And we have the people that are most involved. We'll give you exactitude. And we're here today to celebrate the success of one of the largest, most complex, most harrowing combat searches. I guess you would call it a search and rescue mission ever attempted by the military. Generally, when planes are knocked down in war, especially when you're fighting a strong group, an evil group, you can't really do this because you send in 200 men to pick up one, and it's something that's usually not attempted as much as you want to attempt. And bad things happen to that one or two. And in this case, we did two, and it might not have been attempted before, but we did. And we had great talent, but we got a little luck too, I would say. And we were helped by a lot of people, a lot of great people. And it was an honor to be involved with it. It's very historic. This is a rescue that's very historic. It'll go down in the books. Late Thursday night, an American F-15 fighter jet went down deep inside enemy territory in Iran while participating in Operation Epic Fury, where we're doing unbelievably well, well at a level that nobody's ever seen before. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. Both members of the crew ejected from the aircraft and landed alive on Iranian soil. I immediately was asked to make a decision. I ordered the U.S. Armed Forces to do whatever was necessary to bring our brave warriors back home. A risky decision, because we could have ended up with 100 dead as opposed to 1 or 2. It's a hard decision to make. But in the United States military, we leave no American behind. We don't do it. Within hours, our armed forces deployed 21 military aircraft into hostile airspace, many flying at very low altitude, being shot by bullets. You bring rifles into play when you're going that low, but there are also certain advantages. And in broad daylight over Iran for 7 hours, at times facing very, very heavy enemy fire. We have a helicopter that's got a lot of bullets in it. It's amazing. We just realized how good those weapons are. Our machines are. Nobody has the equipment that we have, and nobody has the military that we have. Not even close. We're the most powerful military anywhere in the world by far. The flight crews and warfighters aboard those aircraft took extraordinary risks to rescue their fellow service members. This first wave of search and rescue forces successfully located the pilot of the F-15, and he was extracted from enemy territory by an HH-60 Jolly Green II helicopter. Fabulous machine as our warriors faced gunfire at very close range. It's amazing that when you look at the machinery, what happened, that nobody was even injured. Meanwhile, the second crew member, a weapons system officer, highly respected colonel, had landed a significant distance away from the pilot. When you're going at those speeds, even if you go out 2 or 3 seconds later, it's miles and miles away because you're going fast. He was injured quite badly and stranded in an area teeming with terrorists from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps rough group, as well as besieged militia and local authorities. Many, on top of everything else, they told the communities actually within inside of Iran, the people of Iran, they were given a tremendous incentive to find this pilot. Despite the peril, the officer followed his training and climbed into the treacherous mountain terrain and started climbing toward a higher altitude, something they were trained to do in order to evade capture. They want to always go as far away from the site of the shoot down. You want to go as far away because they all head right to that site. You want to be as far away as you can. And he was injured, and he was an amazing, amazing thing. He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location. They have a very sophisticated beeper-type apparatus that is on them at all times. And when they go out on these missions, they make sure they have lots of battery space and they're in good shape. And this one worked really well, amazingly, saved his life. We immediately mobilized a massive operation to retrieve him from the mountain holdout. And he kept going higher and higher. The mountain kept getting rougher and rougher and really very, very hard to find. The second rescue mission involved 155 aircraft, including 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 rescue aircraft, and more. We were bringing them all over, and a lot of it was subterfuge. We wanted to have them think he was in a different location because they had a vast military force out there. Thousands of people were looking. So we wanted them to look in different areas, so we were scattered all over like we were right on top of them. We had 7 different locations where they thought, and they were very confused. They said, well, wait a minute, they've got groups here, they've got groups there. It's an amazing thing. I was listening to these great people, these great generals. General Raisin Kane was amazing, and Pete Hegseth was amazing. But I listened to the whole thing. It was pretty amazing. So they had all these different sites where everybody thought he was located. We think we have him over there because they have 9 planes circling a little area that's 25 miles down the coast. So in a breathtaking show of skill and precision, lethality and force, America's military descended on the area, the real area, engaged the enemy, rescued the stranded officer, destroyed all threats, and exited Iranian territory while taking no casualties of any kind. The heroic F-15 weapon system officer had evaded capture on the ground in Iran for almost 48 hours. That's a long time when you're in tough shape and when you're bleeding. It's a long time. When we left, as you probably know, we had 2 large planes, pretty old planes that carried a lot. We needed a lot more equipment going in than coming out, obviously, because going in, we needed to be able to scale mountains, and we had a lot of equipment. But the sand was sandy, wet sand, so we thought there may be a problem taking off because of the weight of the plane, and then we also had all the men jumping back onto the planes, and they got pretty well bogged down, and we had a contingency plan, which was unbelievable, where lighter, faster aircraft came in, and they took them out. We blew up the old planes. We blew them up to smithereens because we had equipment on the planes that, frankly, we'd like to take, but I don't think it was worthwhile spending another 4 hours there taking it off. So we didn't want anybody to have, we have the best equipment anywhere in the world. We didn't want anybody examining our anti-aircraft and other equipment. So these were large planes that were old and pretty old, and we blew them up. And we had faster, lighter planes come in, and they were able to land on the sand. We needed the bigger planes because we had so much equipment that we needed. We took 3 helicopters over there, which were very strongly used and couldn't have lived without them. They did, and they performed unbelievably well. And if you'd see it, you wouldn't believe it. They came off the plane, and these guys had them. The rotors were off. They rebuilt these helicopters in less than 10 minutes. And that was one of the more amazing things. These are helicopters, small, unbelievably powerful, but small, very small, so it can get into certain areas. And they got them off the plane, and they rebuilt all 3 of them in a matter of I would say less than 10 minutes. It's pretty amazing what the genius of these people. Who would think that? You'd think it would take 5 days to build them. And in some companies, it would take 5 days, and they wouldn't do it well. But they served us well. As Commander-in-Chief, I never forget the extraordinary risk taken by the warriors that we send into battle, and the genius. I mean, think of it, having a contingency of 3 planes waiting because we think the sand is so bad that we probably won't be able to take off. And the planes really got bogged. The sand this was not much of a runway. This was a farm, not a runway. It's a farm, but it did the trick. But to have a contingency as opposed to having to wait 2 days, can you imagine right in the middle? This was central. This was right, you would call it central casting if you were doing a movie for location. And probably the toughest area of Iran where we'd be sitting there. So these planes came in, those pilots came in so fast and so quick and got out of there. Everybody got aboard and just got 15-minute intervals. One load out, one load out, one load out. It happened. And we were watching and we said, that's amazing. In many ways, I was almost more impressed by the contingency that we had than the fact that, if we would have had a runway or decent soil, but it was an amazing thing. But we thank God for every single one of them and the talent. The genius is not even talent, it's genius. It's the whole ball game, every one of them. If you look at what we did with Maduro, we went into a military compound, a massive, with thousands and thousands of soldiers, and within a matter of minutes, and he lived behind iron doors. There were steel doors, broke them down so quickly, and within almost minutes, he was in the back of these planes. It was a similar group, incredible. We have incredibly talented people. And if the time comes, we move heaven and earth to bring them home safely. We're going to bring our people home safely. I want to thank every member of the U.S. Armed Forces involved in these historic operations. They really were historic. It's just not something that's done. And you'd understand it. Not that they don't want to do it, but when you're going into areas, when you look at these helicopters, when you look at the amount of bullets and everything else that they took, when you go into these areas, you don't come out like we came out. God was watching us, I tell you. Well, it was the Easter, we were in the Easter territory, I guess, but God was watching us. Amazing. Because when you look at the machinery, they took damage. It tells you, first thing I said is, these are unbelievable machines, how they flew back and not even much of a problem. But these two extraordinary rescues, because it was two, and as you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour, and then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker, and talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail. And we know who, and you know who we're talking about, because some things you can't do. Because when they did that, all of a sudden, the entire country of Iran knew that there was a pilot that was somewhere on their land that was fighting for his life. And it also made it much more difficult for the pilots and for the people going in to search for him. All of a sudden, they know that there's somebody out there. They see all these planes coming in. It became a much more difficult operation because a leaker leaked that we have one, we've rescued one, but there's another one out there that we're trying to get. So actually, the country, Iran, put out a major notice, you all saw it, offering a very big award for anybody that captures the pilot. So in addition to a hostile, very talented, very good, very evil military, we had millions of people trying to get an award. So when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that the person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say, and that doesn't last long, and I think everybody would understand it. They put this mission at great risk. They put that man at great risk, and they put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him, because everyone now knows that we're going in. Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit. You know, eventually you get lucky. but we got lucky too because we got both of them back. But it's a record that is unparalleled in the history of military air operations. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's such an honor to be involved with it. We were up late at night, and then we were waiting for those contingent planes to come in, and we say, come on, let's go, get in, because they're waiting out on this farm without a runway, with wet, crummy soil, sand, mostly sand, wet sand, and it eats planes alive, and we're waiting, and we're saying, I hope that one can land and take off. And they came in like magic, boom, 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 one after another. It was like genius. I'm so impressed by that. Because we were a little concerned. We said, boy, if they don't get in and get up fast, we're sitting in the... And that's called Iran Prime, right, General? That's where the whole bet is. And here we are sitting there waiting for a plane. But they came in so fast and so hard, and these guys knew exactly what to do. Let's go, come on, get in, let's go, pwah. They came one right after another, not at the same time. They don't want to come at the same time. They had to come right after each other. They didn't have any room. There was barely any room to land. Tiny little patch of very wet earth and sand. So I'm so proud of the people that I have standing up here with me and many others that worked. I mean, so many. Steve Witkoff's over here. He's doing fantastically. Jared Kushner. But the people that are here, the job they did is amazing. And I think I'm going to introduce the head of the CIA, and he is a man he's central casting, okay? If we cast a movie, he's going to play the head of the CIA. He's one of the few. John Ratcliffe, he did a phenomenal job that night. He did something that I don't know if you want to talk about it. If you want, you can. I'm not sure he's supposed to. I'm not going to talk about it. But the CIA was very responsible for finding this little speck. It's like they used an expression on one of the shows. A general was talking about, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, finding this pilot. And the CIA was unbelievable. And you may, if you can, you'll talk. It might be classified, in which case I'd have to put him in jail if he talks about it. And I don't want to put him in jail. He doesn't deserve that. So, John, do you want to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a privilege to be here with you today to share what we can about this exceptional mission and to recognize the ingenuity and bravery of those who executed it, as well as the leadership and resolve of the President who ordered it. One thing that has been clear to me in this role is that the flawless military operations that the Department of War is known for are hostage to flawless intelligence. We saw that in the skies over Iran in Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. We witnessed it in Venezuela during Operation Absolute Resolve. We've seen it against the cartels in the Western Hemisphere, and we're seeing it every day in Operation Epic Fury, including this mission to rescue an aviator buried deep behind enemy lines. Because it is the unique tradition of the U.S. Armed Forces that we leave no man or woman behind, this was a no-fail mission. That was the spirit in which the President put us to work, and we were determined not to let him down or our airmen down. As an agency, the CIA possesses unique capabilities that only the President can deploy. Some of these capabilities fall under covert action authorities. And because covert means exactly that, I'm not going to be able to tell you everything that you want to know. At the President's direction, we deployed both human assets and exquisite technologies that no other intelligence service in the world possesses to a daunting challenge, comparable to hunting for a single grain of sand in the middle of a desert. This was also a race against the clock, as it was critical that we locate the downed aviator as quickly as possible, while at the same time keeping our enemies misdirected. For that reason, in addition to the human and technical assets deployed by the President to find our airmen, CIA executed a deception campaign to confuse the Iranians who were desperately hunting for our airmen. On Saturday morning, we achieved our primary objective by finding and providing confirmation that one of America's best and bravest was alive and concealed in a mountain crevice, still invisible to the enemy, but not to the CIA. That confirmation was relayed by Secretary Hegseth to the President, and the operation quickly moved to the execution phase. Following the successful exfiltration on Saturday night, our intelligence reflects that the Iranians were embarrassed and ultimately humiliated by the success of this audacious rescue mission. When the President asked me to lead the CIA, he made it clear: get back to basics, no politics, no agendas, tackle the hardest problems, and execute the toughest missions. This President is about results, and now that's what his CIA is about too. The professionals at the agency and at the Department of War deserve immense credit for their flawless execution during this daring mission. Their skill, creativity, and courage are unmatched on the battlefield wherever they step. But none of that matters, and all of that is wasted without a president with the political courage to put them into action. Mr. President, I've had the privilege of seeing you act with political courage in the best interest of the United States up close on a daily basis, and I'm grateful that this successful mission has given the American people a window into that as well. The Secretary and Chairman will tell you that our service members' confidence is boosted by a Commander-in-Chief who has their back the same way they have yours. And I know that the confidence of CIA's officers is boosted by the knowledge that their work is informing a president who's not afraid to make the hardest decisions when the stakes are highest. And to the American people, your confidence should be boosted by knowing that the security of the nation is in the hands of a president who's willing to take on problems that have confounded both sides of the political aisle for nearly half a century. It is an honor to serve under a leader who just proved that you can believe him when he says, no matter what, we will leave no one behind. We will come for you. Thank you.
Well, John, thank you for the collaboration of the CIA as well. Incredible and ongoing partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, and especially the brave warriors in our armed forces, over this Easter weekend, the United States military has once again proved why we possess the greatest fighting force the world has ever known. In two extraordinary combat search and rescue operations deep inside enemy territory in Iran, our warriors executed missions of breathtaking skill, courage, and precision. When our warriors are unleashed, as this president has allowed them to be, they are unstoppable. When American airmen were down behind enemy lines, our forces and our president did not hesitate. Special operators supported by elite air crews and intelligence professionals moved swiftly and decisively into treacherous mountain terrain under the constant threat of Iranian forces closing in. Ultimately, it was an impotent Iranian threat. And today, as the CIA director mentioned, Iran's military, and we know this, is embarrassed and humiliated, and they should be. Now, these are not routine operations. They were high-risk, high-stakes missions conducted in the heart of enemy territory. This was not just barely into Iran, this was deep into Iran, involving coordinated strikes to suppress threats, deception tactics to protect our teams, and full synchronization across air, ground, and special operations. The Iranians are still asking themselves right now, how did the Americans do this? One downed airman evaded capture for more than a day, scaling rugged ridges while hunted by the enemy. When he was finally able to activate his emergency transponder, his first message was simple, and it was powerful. He sent a message: God is good. In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good. Despite incoming fire and unforgiving conditions, our troops brought every American home. No American lives were lost. We leave no man behind, and that is not luck. It's the result of unmatched training, superior technology, an unbreakable warrior ethos, and sheer American grit. Our special operators, pilots, and support crews performed with near perfection under fire, and they were lethal. Just ask any Iranian soldier who dared attempt to get anywhere near that pilot before or during that mission. Death from above. Our troops turned a potential tragedy into a resounding demonstration of American resolve and capability. That's what excellence in uniform looks like. But make no mistake about it, none of this would have been possible without the courageous leadership and ironclad determination of President Donald J. Trump. From the moment our airmen went down, President Trump made it clear we will leave no one behind. The first mission, the first of two, was an audacious daylight thunder run right up the middle. It was authorized in less than 2 hours from that pilot going down when we knew where he was. And it was authorized in the middle of the night, because anybody that's worked for this man knows he's up in the middle of the night. Authorized immediately, without hesitation, audaciously. The second mission, as soon as we knew where that pilot was, and John was certainly helpful in that, also executed immediately. You know, I looked up at my screen when the final mission was complete inside our SCIF, our secure facility. And we have a running VTC, a running coordination cell. And the top of it read 45 minutes and 45 hours and 56 minutes. For 45 hours and 56 minutes, we held that call open for coordination. From the moment our pilots went down, our mission was unblinking. The call never dropped, the meeting never stopped, the planning never ceased. The president demanded rapid, decisive action. He backed our military with the full weight of his resolve, refusing to let enemy propaganda or tactical setbacks deter us. His leadership ensured that every lethal and non-lethal resource was brought to bear, that our forces had the authorities and the support they needed to succeed. When the president says he has the backs of our warfighters, he means it. And it means a great deal, and it's a big difference on the battlefield. President Trump understands that peace through strength is not a slogan. It is a doctrine that saves American lives. His unwavering commitment to rebuilding our military and restoring the warrior spirit has paid dividends in missions just like this one. Under his command, America projects power with confidence and brings our people home with victory. And that continues today, by the way. Per the president's direction, today will be the largest volume of strikes since day one of this operation. Tomorrow, even more than today. And then Iran has a choice. Choose wisely, because this president does not play around. You can ask Soleimani, you can ask Maduro, you can ask Khomeini. To those heroes who planned and executed these rescues, your nation stands in awe. I stand in awe. The chairman stands in awe. We all stand in awe of your professionalism and bravery. We serve for you. You embody the very best of America. To the rescued airmen and their families, welcome home. Your courage and endurance, the quiet declaration of faith amid the storm, inspires us all. God is good every day. And to our adversaries watching from Tehran, let this be a clear message. The United States military will go anywhere, at any time, to protect our own and complete the mission. We execute with precision. We control the skies. You see, we flew for 7 hours in daylight over Iran to get the first pilot. And we flew 7 hours in the middle of the night to get the second. And Iran did nothing about it. We fight with honor, and under President Trump's leadership, we win. So God bless our troops, God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. A note before I start, I know many of you want specific details in these briefings. We will share what we can, but I will retain what I must in the event that we have to go do this again sometime. And I cannot stress the importance, as the President said, around operational security. The Secretary and I will do a more detailed briefing tomorrow morning, and we look forward to sharing the details that we can. On Thursday, 2 April at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:40 in the morning, local Iran time, the Joint Personnel Recovery Center, which handles the Central Command area of responsibility, declared an isolated personnel recovery event for a U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle, call sign Dude 44, which was down in hostile Iranian territory. The pilot and weapons system officer had both safely ejected and were isolated behind enemy lines. Following confirmation of active rescue beacons and on the direction of the Secretary and by order of the President, a rescue operation was launched with the stated purpose of bringing both Americans home safely. As the Secretary said, several hours later on the morning, after positively locating the front seater, call sign Dude 44 Alpha, and aware of an aggressive ongoing search by the enemy, a U.S. Central Command plan was approved by the Secretary and the President. Shortly thereafter, a U.S. Air Force Combat Search and Rescue Task Force, comprised of A-10 Warthogs in their Sandy role, and I'll describe what that is in a minute, HC-130 Combat King IIs, HH-60 Jolly Green II helicopters, and Air Force Special Warfare Airmen, a package comprised of combat rescue officers and pararescueman operators, audaciously penetrated enemy territory in broad daylight to find, fix, and recover Dude 44 Alpha from behind enemy lines. This was an incredibly dangerous mission, an incredibly dangerous undertaking, but a filled promise made to every American warfighter that you will not be left behind. We will always come find you, and we will always bring you home. Over the next hours, the Search and Rescue Task Force crossed the beach, entered into Iranian airspace, protected by a fighter strike package, and moved into the objective area, all under fire. En route, as some of you have seen on social media, the helicopters took gas off the C-130s and pressed onward and forward up into the objective area. While this was ongoing and out in front of them, the Sandy flight of A-10s and other remotely piloted aircraft, drones, and other tactical aircraft were violently suppressing and engaging the enemy in a close-in gunfight to keep them away from the front seater and allow the pickup force to get into the objective area. During this engagement, one of the
Okay, we're back here in the Live Impact News studio. We know that that press conference is ongoing, but so far we've heard from President Donald Trump, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, all speaking about that mission that was carried out last week when an F-15E jet went down in Iran over Iranian airspace, and then a rescue mission was carried out specifically to rescue the second pilot. The first pilot rescued rather quickly, or I guess made it to safety rather quickly. That second pilot, as you heard there, an extensive operation carried out to rescue that pilot. These, the first two aircrafts from America to go down during this war. Now, you notice I said two there. We were only discussing the rescue of pilots from one. The reason I say two is because there was a second U.S. military jet that was also downed. This is the same day as the F-15 that they're discussing in that press conference with that rescue mission. Now, Iranian state media said Friday that a U.S. A-10 attack aircraft crashed after being struck by Iran's defense forces. An additional U.S. pilot was rescued, but details were not available given the security concerns, another person familiar with the situation said. And that does track with some of what we heard in that press conference where, again, we don't have further details, but when you do have a situation like this, any amount of information that gets out about a potential rescue mission or pilots in danger or anything of that nature could potentially compromise the mission henceforth. So not a lot of details out about a potential rescue mission for a second aircraft, which again would track with some of what we heard in that press conference, but we won't go further on it because we don't know anything, whether that's because there's nothing to know or because there's more sensitive information that needs to stay under wraps for now. So anytime that information does become safely public about a second jet and any rescue missions related to that, we'll have them here on Live Impact News. For now, though, a heroic mission to rescue 2 pilots from that F-15E that were trapped in Iran in the midst of war and then rescued. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have your forecast to set you up for a week of weather right here in Hampton Roads. Stay with us. welcome back to Live Impact News. 1:49 p.m. on this Easter Monday. It is April 6th. And as it's the start of a new week, well, yeah, who am I kidding? Every day it's important for us to make sure we get our forecast in here at 13 News Now. But the start of the week, you need it a little more. You're laying the template for things to come. And that's why meteorologist Evan Stewart is here. Evan, before you jump in, I'll just toss something out here. It's 1:50 p.m. now. 1:56 p.m. is when we expect the crew of the Artemis 2 to pass the distance from Earth record set by Apollo 13 in 1970. So we are 6 minutes away from that record, and just an exciting moment here in American history.
Yeah, it really is. And, still when you think about it, that, the amount of computing power and stuff that are in the palms of our hands now with our cell phones is far more than they had in the 70s.
We were saying that this morning. How incredible it is that they did that in 1970.
Yeah.
It's just astounding that they were able to pull that off 50 years ago. Like you said, the changes in everything. Look at your television. Look at your car. Look at your phone. The difference, how much we've grown technologically, exponential.
Yeah, we still had black and white TVs in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And most of the networks had just started, a year or two before going to color pictures. And, you still had the phones on the wall.
And they made it onto the surface of the moon, safely there and back. Just incredible. It was really, really remarkable. My respect for them grows even as we observe this new piece of history here. And as we're 6 minutes away now, maybe while we're doing this forecast, we'll continue to check in on that live picture.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we've got some live pictures to show you here from all across Hampton Roads because it is beautiful out there. Yeah, it's cooler. We're not in the 70s and the 80s like we were last week. But we still have a good deal of sunshine out there and a few clouds as well as we look all across Hampton Roads. And temperatures have come down a little bit, because we had that cold front move through, brought us those showers and thunderstorms. I think we picked up about 0.6 of an inch of rain, just under that, out at the airport. But you can see, here all across the Mid-Atlantic, nice and clear, high pressure in control of our weather, located just between Raleigh and Charlotte. So the high remains in control of our weather. We're going to look at a nice afternoon and temperatures that, will be in the low 60s. We might even hit 62 or 63. I don't think we'll quite get there, but we are looking at temperatures in the 50s tonight, more sunshine tomorrow. I'm just blowing really through Futurecast because it's really just a temperature forecast for the next 7 days. 61 tomorrow. A little bit of a push of some cooler air coming in on Wednesday. We'll start out in the 40s. And by afternoon, about 53, 54 degrees. So we are going to cool down briefly on Wednesday, but then you see what happens as we get into Thursday, back into the mid-60s, 70s, and 80s again next week.
Well, right back up. Look at next Tuesday up there pushing up against the ceiling of 90 degrees there. And then just yet another smash hit of a weather weekend coming up. That is a beautiful looking Saturday, Sunday. Precipitation-wise, we don't expect anything.
As of right now, we do have dry and sunny weather for the next 7 days, taking us into Saturday and Sunday.
Look at that. Not a drop of water there on the 7-day, and we don't get below 54 degrees. That is like you said it, very classic springtime here that we got going on.
Yeah, very April.
Very April here. Very, very April. What is our, what's the saying? Showers at some time bring flowers at another time?
Yeah, April showers bring May flowers.
Does that hold meteorological weight, or is that just kind of a pithy aphorism that we like to use?
No, I think it does hold some weight. Because, you think about the growing season, you're starting to no longer have the freezing temperatures. So, some of the flowers have already started to bloom, but yeah, April showers bring May flowers.
And yet, we'll see if those flowers come because there are no April showers, at least on this horizon right now.
No, and then the big question is, what do May flowers bring?
Oh, okay. Do tell.
Pilgrims.
Okay.
Yeah.
Set myself up for that. Nah, you let me walk right into that. Did you see that coming before I? Okay. All right. Okay, good. As long as you and I were in the same boat.
Yeah.
I just walked right into that.
I use it every year.
Yeah. All right, we've used it. It was very well done.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, very strongly, well pulled off there. And then, do we have to worry about these drought conditions with all this non-rain?
You know, we did certainly help the situation yesterday. I can actually pull up, let me look for it here and see what our rainfall amounts were yesterday. So again, I thought I remember reading that we were about 0.58 yesterday as far as rainfall out at the airport.
Did that storm do what you guys expected?
0.52, and you can see we had a little bit more in Chesapeake, over an inch. And Virginia Beach, yeah, you know, it came through, you know, right around 3 o'clock. You know, we did have those the rain that lingered a little bit longer behind the front moving through, but you know, brought the gusty winds. We had power outages at one point, almost 9,000 customers.
Yeah.
So you know, we did have a couple of thunderstorms, much needed rain, and now we've got the cooler weather. So, but yeah, pretty much played out how we expected. And
It was, for me, it was one of the more thorough observations of a storm I've ever had. We were on the Chesapeake Bay looking out into the bay, and you just saw it kind of form on the horizon, and we just sort of watched it come right at us. I mean, we pretty much watched it all the way into the bay. And then it happened, and it was relatively quick.
yeah,
It was strong, but relatively quick. And then that secondary rain came in as well, like you said. So we witnessed the whole thing sort of develop right along the lines of how you guys laid it out.
yeah. So you know, a lot of the south side in moderate drought, and you know, the Middle Peninsula, Eastern Shore, moderate drought, just dry. You know, in the yellow areas, and no drought conditions through the peninsula and back towards Petersburg, and then looking at extreme drought down across, you know, eastern North Carolina and Nash and Edgecombe counties and Halifax County. They're around Rocky Mount. So you can see how, you know, the tracks of these storms, you know, can have such a big impact just on the drought conditions over a couple hundred miles.
Okay, so some improvement in the drought conditions, a beautiful spring week on the horizon. Anything else that we need to know here? What else are we looking
Well,
at?
I think we're 48 seconds away.
Oh yeah, should we take this image
I
live
think
here?
we
And this
should, yeah.
this will be the Artemis 2 and the 4 astronauts inside, breaking the record for the furthest human beings have ever been into space. This will be the furthest they've gotten. Now, I wonder if that means, Evan, that they're headed around the moon.
Yeah, they're
this
heading to
point.
the backside. Oh,
Like,
yeah, I
have
would
they
assume
reached?
so. Yeah.
Because in order to go that far, they must be past the moon. So,
Yeah.
I guess they've already passed it, and they're making their way around, which is why you see the moon still in that image. Obviously, they're not headed towards the moon in a straight line because we've landed on the moon before, so that wouldn't
Right.
be a record. So this must be the loop
Yeah, the
around
pass,
the
yeah,
moon,
yeah.
the pass. Yes.
And then we get that
yes.
slingshot effect, which still makes me think of Star Trek.
Oh, can you give us a breakdown of that slingshot effect? Because that's a cool thing. It's gravity related.
Yeah, it's just, you know, as they're going around, you know, the moon. Right now, I guess it was a few hours ago, I heard they reached the point where they were more under the influence of the moon's gravity than the Earth's.
Right.
And, you know, as you're coming around and, you know, you've got that gravity pull, you know, that would normally pull you towards, you know, the surface of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had to readjust some of the rockets and, you know, get back on track a little bit. But, yeah, as they come back around, you know, they sort of get slingshot, I guess that's a word.
By gravity.
Yeah, by the gravity and then back towards the Earth.
Sort of the universal slingshot. Now, can we take a listen here, Naya, and just see if we're able to hear either the astronauts or those at the Space Command Center, if we can hear them actually kind of going through their process? Yeah.
We surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. We do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration. We will continue our journey even further into space before Mother Earth succeeds in pulling us back to everything that we hold dear. But we most importantly choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
Thank you, Integrity, and congratulations to you and the rest of the Artemis 2 team.
Well, there you have it. The record-breaking moment right there. We tuned in just
you. So we
in
have a
time
couple
to
more.
hear that. It looks like they're still communicating back and forth, but that was the moment. You heard sort of a celebration there, but then quickly after that celebration, a message from that astronaut to ensure that this record doesn't stand for long, as this Artemis 2 mission is hopefully the first step in what is a long, ambitious path towards more permanent settlement in space and then eventually a trip to Mars on deck if everything continues to progress as those involved hope that it does. So we got to witness the moment there. That was pretty cool. And as you can see, still those astronauts, a rather small space that they're hanging out in, but they are working hard and they are making history. Evan, any more thoughts on what we just saw?
No, I mean, I think just thinking ahead to what, this could lead up to, we're talking about, bases on the moon and, pit stops on the way to Mars. Pretty incredible stuff.
Think about that. I mean, if you're traveling from Virginia Beach to Los Angeles and you stop off in Atlanta and you have a layover there and then you make your second leg of your flight, that's essentially what they're planning for the moon. It will be a layover on the way to Mars, which is just a sentence that really is right out of science fiction. I mean, it's just absolutely astounding to consider that. And that is what we're headed towards if everything continues to go smoothly and on plan. Let's take one more listen, Naya, just to see if we can hear.
Earth, we will be able to see this from Earth. And so we lost a loved one. Her name was Carol. The spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie. And if you want to find this one, you look at Glushko, and it's just to the northwest of that, at the same latitude as Ohm, and it's a bright spot on the moon. And we would like to call it Carol, and you spell that Carroll.
Okay, so you heard there what sounded like a tribute of some sort, and just doing some very quick research here, and you see those astronauts now embracing you saw one of those individuals actually tearing up during that moment as they named a spot that they have found on the moon, Carol. Now, I'm reading this off of yahoo.com. An astronaut, one of those astronauts, Reed Wiseman, his wife Carol died tragically, leaving him the single father of two. Carol Taylor Wiseman, 46 years old, passed away May 17th in Texas following a 5-year battle with cancer, according to her 2020 obituary. So, 6 years ago now, or a little less than 6 years ago now, Reed Wiseman, one of the astronauts, the Artemis II commander, actually, his wife Carol passing away, and in that moment just now, naming a spot that they have found on the moon after his wife who had passed on. An incredible moment there. And, it's interesting because we talk about this trip to space and a settlement on the moon and then making our way to Mars and, reaching out into the cosmos as a species further than we ever have before and beyond. And it's all so big, right? And it's so beyond, what we consider to be sort of the ins and outs of humanity, right? But then in the midst of all that, you see a moment like that just brings it right back down to the person-to-person interaction that started everything that we have come to know on this planet, including us heading towards other planets. So really an amazing dichotomy there as we head off. We have now reached a record-breaking point of space exploration, and in that moment, these astronauts sharing sort of a tearful hug as they remember one of their loved ones who's been lost. An incredible moment there. I can't believe we kind of caught that as we went out to the Artemis II. So we'll continue to check in on this as we go. Evan, anything else from you here on the forecast?
Nothing else as far as the forecast goes.
Yeah.
7 days of sunshine.
Yep.
Cool the next few days. Back into the 70s this weekend and 80s next week.
Love it. Thanks for hanging with us for a little extra time as we look kind of these live looks at the Artemis, and we'll see you at 4 o'clock on 13 News Now.
Sounds good.
All right, that Evan Stewart, everybody. As for myself and Naya, we're going to take a brief commercial break here. When we come back, more news. All right, back here on Live Impact News, where the press conference at the White House is ongoing. President Trump now taking questions from the press. Let's go live back out to Washington, D.C.
Between Iraq and Iran, he should have befriended Iraq. He went in the exact opposite direction of all thinking, and he made a terrible mistake. But that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And when I terminated that, everyone said, oh, he terminated it. It was one of the best things we ever did because he had a road to a nuclear weapon. And it was a very short-term deal. You know, countries don't do 10-year deals. Countries do hundreds of years. You don't do a 10-year deal. For a country, this isn't, you're a landlord and you're renting a store on a certain street and you give somebody a 5-year or a 10-year lease. This is a country. It was a short-term deal. It was ready to expire. I terminated it before it expired. Took a lot of heat. And it was one of the best things I ever did because he would have had a nuclear weapon. Then he would have had another nuclear weapon, had those beautiful B-2 bombers not gone in 8 months ago and obliterated that site. And by the way, the word is obliteration. CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't complete. It was so complete that they still haven't been able to get it. It was obliteration. But if we didn't hit them, that was a courageous decision, too, because we had all those planes flying in at night with very little cover, unbelievable stealth planes, and they were able to do their job. If we didn't do that, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon at a high level, either one of those two instances. And if they did, in my opinion, I told this to Bibi Netanyahu yesterday, Israel would have been extinguished. Large portions of the Middle East would have been extinguished, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, or others. And you saw that with thousands of missiles raining down upon them. They didn't think they were going to be hit. They thought they'd be watching us fight. And all of a sudden, UAE got hit by 1,500 missiles. He would have taken them out also. And they were powerful. If I didn't come along and terminate the Obama deal, which was terrible, the Iran nuclear deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, a big one, unlimited, legally. I terminated it without even much thought. It was so easy. I terminated that, and then the B-2 bombers. And I did one other thing. I had killed Qasem Soleimani, who was an evil genius. And the reason I did it, I heard he was going to knock out 5 of our military bases. And had he lived, I believe we would be fighting perhaps a different Iran right now because he's never been replaced, you know. And I did one other, but this one was not picked up. Osama bin Laden. If you read my book, I said you got to take him out 1 year before the World Trade Center came down. So I wish you'd read the book. But you, as a president, to be a good president, I believe you have to have good instincts. And a lot of this is instinct. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for taking my question, Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead,
President, last week, last week you suggested that Europe should take the lead on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Has circumstances changed now that you're issuing a direct 48-hour ultimatum? And secondly, would a new ceasefire include Israel, or would it just be between Iran
I can't
and
talk
US?
about ceasefire, but I can tell you that we have a active, willing participant on the other side. They would like to be able to make a deal. I can't say any more than that. But they're like,
Mr. President, you've listed the goals. Excuse me.
Please, go ahead.
You've listed
Thank
the
you, Mr.
goals.
President.
Who you with?
Happy
Who
to-
you with?
My name
is Dia Kurda. I'm with the largest Kurdish media outlet, Ruda Media Network. It's based in Iran.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, you said before that you don't want the Kurdish forces to enter Iran and be harmed. Do you still want them to stay away? Or what role do you expect them to play now?
I'd rather have them stay away.
And then,
I'd rather have them stay away because I think they bring with them some problems and some difficulties. And I don't think they bring death, I mean, you know, to themselves. But I'd rather have them stay away. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the question. Deliberate attacks on civilian infrastructure violate the Geneva Conventions and
Who you
international
with?
law.
Who you with?
I'm with the New York Times. Zolan from the New York Times. Are you
The failing.
Are you
see
concerned?
circulation way down at the New York Times.
Are
What's
you
going on
concerned
with it?
that your threat to bomb power plants and bridges amount to
No,
war
not at
crimes?
all. No, I'm not. I hope I don't have to do it. But again, I just said 47 years they've been negotiating with these people. They're great negotiators, and because they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And if somebody that takes my place someday is weak and ineffective, which possibly that will happen because we had numerous presidents that were weak, ineffective, and afraid of Iran, we're never going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And if you think it's okay for people that are sick of mind, that are tough, smart, and sick, really sick, you know, from a policy standpoint, from a any which way you want to say, mentally, these are disturbed people. If you think I'm going to allow them, and powerful and rich, to have a nuclear weapon, you can tell your friends at the New York Times, not going to happen.
It means violating international law.
Quiet. You no longer have credibility at the New York Times because the New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election, and I won in a landslide. I won every swing state. New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election. New York Times has no credibility. The credibility they have is it used to be all the news that's fit to print. The old gray lady, it was great, but they're running on past fumes, and you can't keep doing that. You have to be able to give the correct news. And people like you, who I know, are fake. You're fake. Go ahead, please.
Your messaging on the war has moved from the war is coming to an end to war going to be bombing Iran to the Stone Ages. Right. And we've heard a range of those kind of messages. So which is it? Are you winding this down?
Can't tell you.
Or are you escalating
I can't tell you. I don't know. I can't tell you. Depends what they do. This is a critical period. They have a period of, well, till tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I gave them an extension. They asked for an extension of 7 days, right? I said, Steve, give them 10 days. 10 days is up actually today, so I gave them 11, I guess, indirectly. I thought it was inappropriate the day after Easter. I want to be a nice person. They have till tomorrow. Now, we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of people are affected by this. But we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, they're going to have no bridges. They're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah. Stone Ages. CNN fake news.
Are you willing to make a deal that does not include reopening the Strait of Hormuz, or is that now a top priority?
I would say it's a very big priority because, see, that's one thing that's a little different than other things. We can bomb the hell out of them. We can knock them out for a loop. But to close the strait, all you need is one terrorist that somehow has a truck loaded with, because you can carry them in trucks, large trucks, a water mine, drop them in the water, and now you tell people that own ships that cost $1 billion to don't worry about the mine. You can do that even just by saying we put mines in the water. So it's not like the rest. We can knock out their military. We already have. We've knocked out their Navy. We've knocked out their Air Force completely. We've knocked out 158 ships in 3 days. We've knocked out even their mine droppers. They don't have any mine droppers anymore, but they put them on other boats, and they could drop them. I'm not even sure they have any mines there, by the way. I'm not sure. I'm personally, they say there might be 8. I don't know. I think there might be none because they're very good bullshit artists. That's why for 47 years they've been bullshitting other presidents, and they haven't done the job. And people are living in hell. You live in that country, they're living in hell. No, I think that 47 years of this stuff is long enough. They're at the weakest point they've ever been. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weaponry, they have no radar, they have no communication. In fact, the biggest problem we have in our negotiation is that they can't communicate. I said to Steve, what are they saying? Sir, they can't communicate. They have no method of communication. So we're communicating like they used to communicate 2,000 years ago with children, bringing a note back and forth. They have no communication. But all I want to see is I want to have a safe world. And you're not going to have a safe world. Israel will be gone. The Middle East will be gone. And then they're coming for Europe. And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO. Very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear. Never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning when I spoke to UK of all. I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. You know, we have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour, aimed at the Abraham Lincoln. 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down. Unbelievable technology. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been possible. But 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. 101 missiles heading to a ship that's not that far off the coast. And out of the 101 missiles, we shot down all 101. We have weaponry. The Patriots are unbelievable. We have weaponry that's unbelievable, yeah.
Just to clarify.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said earlier today during the egg roll that you would like to take Iran's oil, but Americans want U.S. forces home.
Correct.
What's that trade-off?
If I had my
Does it
choice,
take too
if I had my
much time?
choice, yeah. Because I'm a businessman first. With Venezuela, as you know, the war was over in about 45 minutes. And we have great people running Venezuela, very good people. I mean, the relationship is good. And we are a partner with Venezuela. And we've taken hundreds of millions of barrels, hundreds of millions. Over 100 million barrels already is in Houston, refined and out. And paid for that war many, many times over, many times. You know, the old days, to the victim. Okay, you know that. To the winner belong the spoils, go the spoils. And I've said, why don't we use it? To the victor, go the spoils. And we don't have that. We haven't had that in this country probably in 100 years, because even the Second World War, you look at the Second World War, we didn't have it with the Second World. We helped rebuild all those countries. We rebuilt Germany. How about Germany telling us that, well, it's not their war. We had nothing to do with it. They wanted me to go and tell them everything I was doing. We didn't know anything about it. Well, if I would have told them, they would have leaked it, and we wouldn't have been nearly as successful, possibly, right? But to the victor belong the spoils. So we haven't heard that in, I think, maybe hundreds of years. Now with Venezuela, And we, just so you understand, the people of Venezuela, they say if I ran for president of Venezuela, I'm polling higher than anybody has ever polled in Venezuela. So after I'm finished with this, I can go to Venezuela. I will quickly learn Spanish. It won't take too long. I'm good at language. And I will go to Venezuela. I'm going to run for president. But we're very happy with the president-elect that we have right now, the people that are running it. If you remember Bush with Iraq, they fired the generals, they fired the police, they fired the people that worked in their equivalent of the White House. They fired everybody. And you know what they had? They had a mess. And you know what happened? ISIS formed. Those generals and those soldiers got together, the police got together, they all got together, they formed ISIS. Not going to happen with us. So Venezuela has been an incredible situation. We went in, we were very successful, military power like nobody's ever seen. The general, Venezuelan general said, I was on that site, I said, I've never seen ferocity like that. I've been doing this for 40 years. He said, I've never seen it. They hit us from 17 different, they were all set. They saw that big, beautiful aircraft carrier, the Ford in that case, and planes were pouring off it at 1 o'clock in the morning. So typically when you see that late at night, you know, you could be in trouble, right? And we were all ready. They had their equipment, it was Russian. And they had Chinese equipment. It was all set. They were going to give us a fight. He said, and then they came, and they came at speeds like we've never seen. And they came at 17 different angles. The general and his people, that was a lot of angles. They hit him from every angle. He said, we knew it was over in 3 minutes. We were waiting for them. Their equipment didn't work. And there's a reason it didn't work. Someday we'll explain that to people. They pressed the button, nothing happened. They pressed it again and again, nothing happened. And he said, we knew this whole thing was over in 3 minutes. We've never seen any, he used the word ferocity. The ferocity of these planes from 17 different angles, and it was over. They went inside, and remember, that was on a military base with thousands of soldiers. And those soldiers looked and they said, get the hell out of here. Thousands, we didn't have thousands, we had like 200 people. So, we have a great military, and I'll tell you what, somehow this rescue captured the world's attention, more so than normally. You're talking about 2 people, but this rescue captured the world's attention. But we did it in Venezuela. That was amazing, and now we have a very bad man in prison and going to trial. I mean, he released, aside from the drugs, which he was terrible, Maduro released hundreds of thousands of people from jails into our country. Drug dealers, murderers, the worst people in the world were released into our country because we had a stupid president who probably didn't know, and we had a border czar who never went to the border and never once called our great Border Patrol agents, right? Not once, Kamala. She never called the Border Patrol. She never said, how are we doing? I used to call the Border Patrol guys every day. You can ask them, Paul, ask any one of them. Brandon, ask him all the time, how are we doing, how are we doing? And we now, I'm proud to say, have a totally sealed border. 9 months, nobody is coming through our border. And nobody even tries because they know they're not going to get through. So we don't have caravans anymore. So maybe 1 or 2 more and we'll be done.
Mr. President, are you allowed to, or are you willing to end this conflict with Iran charging tolls for passage through the strait?
Us charging tolls?
Iran.
What about us charging tolls?
Is that something you're considering?
I'd rather do that than let them have them, right? Why shouldn't we? We're the winner. We won, okay? They are militarily defeated. The only thing they have is the psychology of, oh, we're going to drop a couple of mines in the water, all right? No, we have a concept where we'll charge tolls, okay? I thought you meant us. Your question would have been more accurate if you said us. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So just to clarify, in order for Iran to successfully meet your deadline tomorrow, do they have to make a deal, open the strait, or both?
We have to have a deal that's acceptable to me. And part of that deal is going to be, we want free traffic of oil and everything else.
Mr. President, thank you very much. You've said glory be to God in this conflict. Do you believe that God supports the United States' actions in this war?
I do, because
And have you
God
sought
is
his direction?
good, because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy it. These two guys don't enjoy it. You know, people say, oh boy, they're so tough. I don't like seeing people killed. I've ended 8 wars. Nobody's ever done it. The person who won the Nobel Prize came to me and said, you deserve the Nobel Prize. She announced that. When they announced, they said, goes to Maria. She's a great person, really a good person. She said, no. This is ridiculous. They gave me the Nobel Prize. President Trump ended 8 wars. I could go over every one of them, including India and Pakistan, where the Prime Minister of Pakistan said, President Trump saved from 30 to 50 million lives. That makes me much happier than what we're doing right now. That makes me much happier. We have one more to end, by the way.
Okay. President, you called yesterday in your Truth Social, you called the Iranians crazy bastards.
True.
What is your response to critics who say that
I don't care about critics.
What is your response to critics who say that it is your mental health that should perhaps be examined as this war continues?
I haven't heard that. But if that's the case, you're going to have more people like me, because our country was being ripped off on trade, on everything, for many years until I came along. So if that's the case, you're going to have more people. Dasha, go ahead. Dasha, go.
You said that very little is off limits in Iran as far as targeting,
Yeah.
including power plants, bridges, you've mentioned those.
Very little is off limits.
Are there certain kinds of civilian targets, though? I'm thinking schools
I don't want
or
to tell you
hospitals
that.
you
I don't want
would
to
say
tell you
is
that.
off-
We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to. We don't want that to happen. We may even get involved with helping them rebuild their nation. And you know what? If that's the case, the last thing we want to do is start with power plants, which are among the most expensive thing, and bridges. You saw the bridge. The bridge went. We were very close to a deal. And then I got a call from Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, and JD saying, I think they're breaking the deal. I said, tell them that's okay. Don't worry about it. But tell them to look out their window and watch. And within 45 minutes, I gave the order to knock out the biggest bridge. I gave the order, knock out the biggest bridge in, I believe, the Middle East, but the biggest bridge in Iran. And within 10 minutes after I gave that order, that bridge was over. So do I want to do that? No. Do I want to destroy their infrastructure? No. It will take them 100 years to rebuild. Right now, if we left today, it would take them 20 years to rebuild their country, and it would never be as good as it was. And the only way they're going to be able to rebuild their country is to utilize the genius of the United States of America.
You voiced your displeasure with NATO in the past. Is there a danger to the U.S. not being the de facto of the leader of the alliance, and then other powers within the alliance then getting the decision making when it comes to wars and nuclear weapons?
No, it's not a danger. Look, we went to NATO. I didn't ask very strongly. I just said, hey, if you want to help, great. No, we will not help. I said, that's all right. You don't want to help? Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us. And he's explained it to me a lot of times. I got to know him very well. I know him very well. NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them, obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips. Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. We've got 50,000 soldiers in Japan to protect them from North Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea to protect us from Kim Jong-un, who I get along with very well, as you know. Do you notice he said very nice things about me? He used to call Joe Biden a mentally retarded person, okay? So don't tell me about your stuff. Joe Biden, he said he's a mentally retarded person. He was so nasty to Joe Biden. It was terrible. But to me, he likes Trump. And do you notice how nice things are with North Korea? It's very nice. But we have 45,000 people, soldiers, in harm's way, and right next to Kim Jong-un with a lot of nuclear weapons. 45, which should have never happened if a certain president, I'm not going to mention this president because I happen to like him, believe it or not, but if a certain president did his job, Kim Jong-un would not have nuclear weapons right now. But they were all afraid to do their job properly. But just to conclude and just to finish, Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then you get to NATO. NATO didn't help us. There were some countries that did. Now, countries that have been good, now you could also say they're got to be a little bit more involved because they're in the territory, but Saudi Arabia has been excellent, Qatar has been excellent, UAE has been excellent, Bahrain, Kuwait. I mean, Kuwait did shoot down 3 of our planes. The only planes, really, that we lost with friendly fire, they call it. I call it unfriendly fire. They unfortunately didn't know how to use our great Patriots. The pilot said, what kind of a missile's coming at us? Patriot. Boom, they got out. Because they know a Patriot never misses. So they had beautiful Patriots. There were planes heading in their direction. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot those planes. They were our planes. So, no, NATO is a paper tiger. Now, he's coming to see me on Wednesday, as you know. He's a wonderful guy. Secretary General is great. And Mark Rutte, he's a great person, but he's got... And you know, it all began with, if you want to know the truth, Greenland. We want Greenland. They don't want to give it to us. And I said, bye-bye. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
What about rising gas prices for Americans who are concerned? General King, how are you
Okay, so a lengthy question and answer session there from President Trump, touching on a number of different topics, talking extensively about Venezuela at one point, saying that we've taken hundreds of millions of barrels, at least 100 million barrels. They're in Houston, refined and out. Following that up with the quote, "To the victor go the spoils." Speaking at the very end there, touching on Greenland, which we haven't heard much about that story in some time. It's using that as sort of the seed that maybe birthed some of the issues with NATO. Those issues have been more in the headlines as NATO allies have not been extremely willing to help with the war in Iran. He did say the Secretary General of NATO will be visiting him on Wednesday. He was asked about violating international law in regards to some of the threats to target civilian infrastructure like bridges and power plants. He said he's not at all worried about that. At one point, he mentioned that 101 missiles were aimed at the Abraham Lincoln, at USS Abraham Lincoln. All of them were shot down. This all occurring in one day. He was asked about Iran potentially charging tolls for the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump responded by saying, why not us charging tolls for the Strait of Hormuz? Iran currently has shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Last week, President Donald Trump imploring NATO allies who depend on the Strait of Hormuz to take it for themselves and cherish it. Now, speaking as though we could potentially charge tolls for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. He's saying that in order for Iran to meet the deadline that he has set last night, or that he has set for tomorrow night, not only do they need to open the strait, but they need to make a deal that's acceptable to him. He threatened that every bridge in Iran could be decimated by 12 tomorrow night, every power plant out of commission by 12 tomorrow night. That's not what he wants to do, he said, but he said we could. So a lot of different topics. The war in Iran, the main focus, taking a number of questions there from reporters. A question and answer session here, quite a long one on this Easter Monday. Before that, Secretary Pete Hegseth, President Trump himself, the director of the CIA, speaking about the mission to rescue a second pilot in Iran that took place late last week, a heroic mission that was described as being intricate, dangerous, and ultimately did rescue and save that pilot, one of two pilots who went down confirmed on a fighter jet that were rescued, the second one having to be rescued in what amounted to a very serious mission based on everything that we have heard. So I know that this was a little scattered. I'm trying to summarize everything that we heard there. It was again, a rather long question and answer session as we joined about halfway through after spending a lot of time witnessing history with the Artemis II up in space. So hopefully this summary made a little bit of sense, trying to recall some of the main moments from that press conference. Okay, let's do this. 2:35 p.m., 25 minutes left in the stream. Let's take a break. We'll go to commercial here. When we come back, we can check in on the Artemis II, which has made history officially. We have a press conference from earlier chronicling a very violent weekend in Atlanta. So we still have quite a bit to explore here. First, a commercial. All right, back here on Live Impact News. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. What we're going to do now is another check-in on that Artemis 2. As of 1:56 p.m., they officially made history. The furthest human beings have... Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry about that. The furthest human beings have ever been into space. And... they have accomplished that goal. I'm pulling up the schedule for today. Okay, 2:45 p.m., 5 minutes from now, lunar flyby begins. So just in about 5 minutes, they will start another key aspect of the milestones that they have been hitting here. The lunar flyby begins. At 7:07 p.m., they'll actually reach their maximum distance away from Earth. And then at 8:35 p.m., they enter into that solar eclipse that we talked about last week. So what we have up now on our live screen here is the control room, I suppose, back here on Earth, and then a picture outside of the Artemis 2. So I think what we're going to do is let's listen into the control room, see if we can hear anything going on. Let's go live out to I believe they're in Florida in the midst of the Artemis 2 mission. All right, no audio coming from that live
Artemis
look.
Mission
Still cool
Control.
to get a...
We
Oh,
are standing
there's
by
the audio
for the
right
beginning
there.
of
Per usual, I
lunar
jumped the gun.
flyby. Expecting that to start in just a few minutes when the crew will begin a warm-up discussion, preparing for the day. They will be capturing images along while discussing what they find familiar about the moon and what looks unexpected to them. Again, just minutes away from the official start of lunar flyby, or when it is timelined for the crew. We are currently 10,726 miles away from the moon. This view on the left side of your screen coming from the camera on one of Orion's solar arrays. Other conversation points while the crew are getting ready for their flyby today. They'll be looking to orient themselves using major landmarks and annotating their observations along with their discussion. They'll have 10 minutes for that warm-up discussion.
If you're just now tuning in, we realize there's no audio at the moment, but right now we're waiting for that.
Integrity. We have two folks at the window deep in discussion talking about all of the awesome features that they're seeing. We just had a huge moment realizing that Hertzsprung is about the same size as our incredible Oriental. We're really excited about this target that's kind of new to us. We're orienting on things like how we talk about albedo, finding some of the prevalent things that we're used to from all of our training, and just overall taking in this view. We also are noticing that the moon is still getting noticeably bigger as we go, even when you're watching it continuously. It's great to see these two guys get warmed up.
We love the report, Christina, thanks. And you nailed it on why we added Hertzsprung. As you'll see in the prompts, we're looking for comparisons to the comparatively much older Hertzsprung compared to the younger Oriental. Great words.
This is Artemis Mission Control. That was the voice of Dr. Kelsey Young speaking with the astronauts aboard Orion as they begin their observation period and lunar flyby. NASA astronaut Christina Cook reporting their view of Hertzsprung Basin. The team here is looking for centered images of the basin at a full zoom, and they're hoping that the astronauts can image and describe the inner and outer rings. This is considered a degraded basin with a floor, rings, and ejecta compared to a younger Oriental basin. We spoke earlier with Julian Gross, the Artemis curation lead, about some of the terms we will hear the crew use today. One of those just called out, that's albedo, looking at surface brightness, or the amount of light a surface reflects. A few more terms that we hope to hear today during the crew's sit reps or situation reports include embaying. This refers to one feature that surrounds another. That usually is a higher relief feature.
Houston Integrity, one report from the crew at the windows. We can actually see the moon and Earth at the same time right now. It's interesting because the Earth looks way brighter, so the Earth itself seems to have a much higher albedo than the moon. We think this is independent of our eyes focusing because, of course, the Earth is much smaller than the moon in our view, so you could think that your eyes focus for the darker sky, and that it means that it only has apparent brightness more than the moon, but since we're seeing both in the same view, we do think that this can be inferred as the Earth as a whole has a higher albedo.
Great observation, Christina, and reminder that as you're starting to look for those subtle color and albedo variations on the moon, the relatively bright albedo Earth might make those a little bit difficult, but as your eyes continue to adjust, we expect you to start to see more nuance on the moon. Thanks.
Great call. Thanks for the reminder.
We're all going to be experts in lunar terminology by the end of the day. Another one we expect to hear is mare. These are dark regions paved or filled by volcanic deposits. You also can hear them called seas, oceans, lakes, or marshes, or other bodies of water. Again, we are live in Artemis Mission Control, but on the right side of your screen, that is the Science Evaluation Room, team members who have been preparing for this day for years. The crew has significantly darkened the cabin of Orion. This allows them better views outside the windows and fewer reflections from inside. They reported being able to see the moon and the Earth out the same window at this time. We are really hopeful to get those photos. Right now, this view on the left side of your screen coming from a camera mounted on one of the solar array wings on Orion outside the spacecraft. The crew is equipped with 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lenses.
Connor here once again on Live Impact News on 13 News Now Plus. We're getting sort of sporadic audio from this control center, but it is very, very interesting to listen to as they are communicating with those astronauts. You just heard the sentence, they've been preparing for this day for years. I mean, just imagine years and years of preparation, and that day has finally arrived. You heard that moment where they spoke about being able to see the Earth and the moon at the same time. Also, a lot of talk about albedo. Albedo, the sort of dictionary definition is reflective
team
power,
continues their
the
warm-up
fraction of
discussion.
incident radiation such as light reflected by a surface or body such as the moon or a cloud. That's albedo, talking about the brightness of those planets due to their albedo. So a lot going on here. Very exciting. This is going to be a 6-hour lunar flyby, and we'll listen in again. We know that at times it gets quiet, but it is fascinating when we're able to hear the communication there. So we're going to keep listening here. If the audio goes quiet for too long, we'll pop back on. But for now, we're going to keep listening in.
I also want the crew to compare the appearance of rayed craters in the near-side mare versus in the far-side highlands. Of course, a reminder that some of the items that the crew, or some of the landmarks the crew are seeing today, is the first time that humans have ever laid eyes on those portions of the moon. In the targeting package, there are a few reminders of the crew. For the crew, there are time-sensitive observation reminders and science sit-rep reminders.
Integrity. We have a sit-rep. The targets that are being discussed right now, it's the far side, near side comparison, and hearing some great discussion of browns and greens in the Aristarchus Plateau and how those disappear as you go toward the North Pole, and then over to the far side, you lose the color. You've got Jeremy in window 2, Reed in window 1, having a great discussion. Reed is in window 3. Christina's under window 1, documenting the discussion. And we've got the lights completely off in the cabin. There are some LEDs that we cannot put out that do provide some light scatter. But we have all of the internal lights off. And are letting our eyes adjust as best we can. The window 4 view, you only get about a third of the moon. Tycho is going to go over the horizon soon, and you can see Aristarchus, and then you start to lose the view as you go to the west in Oceanus and Procellarum. So far, the team is on the plan, and the long lens is being put to good use, and recordings are being made, and internal documentation of the configuration and the observations is ongoing. Science, do you have any questions for us at this time?
Integrity Science. Victor, very glad that you provided the first formal science sit rep, as these were indeed your idea. One follow-up question, any relationship between those browns and greens you described? Do you see them blending into one another, and do you see any topography associated with either color?
I don't want to bother the window team. I just heard that, overheard that, and so I'm sorry I don't have that detail yet. I will eavesdrop and see if I can pick that up. I will try to answer that at some point. I also heard a comparison of the albedo in Aristarchus, that crater, the very high albedo spot. You can see it on the near side. There is a feature called, I believe, Burgess alpha that is equally or maybe higher albedo. I apologize for the gaps. I'm trying to listen and talk at the same time, but I will try to get some more information to correlate those colors from Aristarchus for you.
Understood, Victor, and good call to not bug the window team. Really like the brightness comparisons to Burgess A. Really helpful for the science team. Keep them coming. Thanks.
I also heard a discussion about the albedo of Grimaldi being a 10, and how many of us, when we were a little further away, saw that as the darkest albedo, and that the bigger Mare off to the to the east was still dark, but maybe a 7-8. We still think that, but you are seeing color variation, albedo variation inside of Grimaldi as well, and that even on the west side there's still a very dark part of it. But it is still the darkest. It is just not as uniform as it looked when we were farther away. We're starting to differentiate.
Okay, welcome back here to Live Impact News. As again, just hearing communication. Victor, one of the is the name of one of the astronauts aboard the Artemis II, and then of course hearing quite a bit of communication from that command center as they are just right in the midst of making history at this very moment. Quite incredible. Really, really amazing stuff. We'll be following that Artemis II mission all week. They've got another few days after the history of today finishes up. And of course, as they said, scientists eagerly awaiting the data, the photos, the information that they'll be sending back, and with which they'll start to chart the possibility of even further and more permanent space exploration. Okay, one quick thing to touch on before we get out of here for the night. Of course, congratulations to the UCLA Bruins on being the women's college basketball national champions, taking down South Carolina in a totally and completely dominant performance. And then tonight, the men's national championship, UConn, Michigan. Michigan heavy favorites, 6.5-point favorites, but UConn's won 2 of the last 3 titles, and they have a coach who just seems like he's got that capability of willing people to do more than they thought they were capable of in Dan Hurley. So we'll see who comes out as the champs of college basketball tonight. And then, of course, the season will be over. It's on to the NBA playoffs. For now, though, that's going to do it for us here on Live Impact News. What a show. What a Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday. For Nia Campbell, I'm Connor Real. We hope to see everybody tomorrow.